Hey guys, welcome back to the Silverback Show. I'm Joe Bunton. I'm your host, and this is a continuation on the role of the silverback in family and family in general. So we've been talking a lot about the first 7 years of life. My son sent me a video. My son sent me a video of Dr. Shefali. I'm sure if you haven't, you guys can look her up on YouTube. And her very, very important work is about bringing consciousness into parenting, consciousness parenting. And one of the things that I want to clarify for all of us and continue to clarify for myself is that bringing consciousness into the role of the silverback does not mean all of a sudden you're no longer fierce. So when I talk about being fierce, I talk about being fierce in responsibility and fierce in the role of protecting the female, first and foremost. That's the power of the silverback. The silverback is not attached to any ego, and that's where Dr. Shefali and any of us who are talking about consciousness raising can learn from the silverback. The silverback, you may say, doesn't have the freedom of choice that the human being has, but that's not important here. To me, what's important is modeling. And in this great, powerful, male, hierarchical animal, you don't have any confusion, you don't have any doubt, you don't have any fear. And in our consciousness awakening, one of the things that Dr. Shefali talks about, which is really anybody who's talking about consciousness, whether you're talking about it from a Buddhist standpoint, a Hindu standpoint, a metaphysical or mystical Christian Jewish standpoint, or a metaphysical Islamic standpoint. I don't really know about Islam. What I do know a little bit about is a unique man named Khalil Gibran. And somebody referenced one of Khalil Gibran's famous poems about love, and love is trusting and letting go, and Gibran, if my memory serves me right, Gibran is coming out of Lebanon, and he's coming out of the early Middle Eastern tradition. Spiritual poet, philosopher, heart-centered philosophy. And so at the roots of all of our religious or spiritual practices is bringing heart consciousness into our awareness. And this is why, to me, my role model is the silverback. So Dr. Shefali talks about fear-based parenting and fear-based living, and most self-help gurus, most teachers helping individuals, whether it's a Tony Robbins, Dr. Wayne Dyer, That doesn't matter. Ultimately, anybody who's talking about elevating consciousness or bringing deeper awareness into our lives is all about dealing with the self and quote unquote letting go of ego and not being afraid to live what's called a more authentic, genuine life. So my hero is the silverback because he is fearless. There is no doubt, there is no confusion, there is no questioning going on in his consciousness. So if we reflect upon that, we can internalize that image for ourselves. If we men who want to be heroes, champions, face our fears and become courageous warriors, then the silverback is also our hero and also our model and mentor and representative, because he does all of this without any ego involvement. He doesn't do it for egoic gain. That's very, very important. So the character building is what we're after when we're talking about developing our children. And one area where I think that I disagree from what I heard on an interview with Dr. Shefali, and I can only say what I think I disagree with because I haven't had any opportunities to speak with her directly and see really, where she's thinking about this, and I'm just going on whatever the host or hostess has asked her or hasn't asked her. And that's around male hierarchy. I heard her talking about her daughter being 14 and teaching her daughter that, she's different than a man in that she is more attached, more heart-centered toward her loving than a male is. And here's where we agree. Men are dogs, and we're all dogs first and foremost until we elevate our consciousness. And my hope for elevating consciousness in all young males and all males in general is to move from the dog phase to the silverback phase, where we're not just pouncing on the female, any female, all females, and tricking the females into letting us pounce on them. And we'll get into the female role in a minute, guys, so don't worry. They're not blameless at all. But I'm talking about elevating consciousness so that a mother with a 14-year-old daughter can clearly understand that she has to educate her daughter and make her become more aware that she will be loving you in a different way that you'll be loving her. And having 3 sons, it's something that takes quite a long time to get to. But if they have that modeling in the home, if they have the modeling in the home that the father is there for the family and the father is there for his woman and the father is there for the children, then that's a kind of protection that all mothers are looking for their daughters. Okay, so we can't get around that most 14-year-old boys aren't going to be conscious like this, and we can't get around that even most 18 or 19-year-old boys are going to be conscious like this, and we can barely wrap our hands around, our 24-year-old sons. I think somewhere between 24 and 28, I noticed the biggest shift in my sons in terms of being ready for taking on family and taking on the role of their women as being really the fully protector. Even though I got them started with this concept at a very early age, so that my son, who has been in a 6-year relationship, is very, very protective of his woman. It doesn't mean that he is not a dog first and foremost. And at the same time, that doesn't mean that he's not also a developing silverback, because he's both. And we're all both. And we have to stop pretending that there's anything, this ultimate pinnacle that we reach, because there's not, there never is. If my woman doesn't give me sex on a regular basis, I'm going to go find it somewhere else, or at least I'm going to have the thought that I'm going to find it somewhere else, or even beyond that, I'm not even going to have the thought. It's just going to be the primal instinct to get it somewhere else. Now, is that a bad thing? I don't think any of it's bad. I think it's just becoming aware of ourselves, aware of who we are, aware of what we need to sustain the protector-provider role. So what I need to sustain my protector-provider role is I need my woman to bring me food. I need at least a couple times a month her to give me sensual, erotic, sexual pleasure. And I need her to show that she admires and respects me. Now, along those lines, I don't expect her to respect and admire me if I'm remaining a dog. I expect her to make me raise up to the fullest level of my silverback capacity, and that's the beautiful thing about teaching young males about the silverback, and teaching young women about helping their man become the best silverbacks they can be. It's a very powerful role, and it's a very wonderful experience when your woman admires you for taking care of her, and when your woman encourages you to take care of her as the protector provider, and when she shows that the more you do that, the more she'll admire and look up to you. So going back to the young bucks, it's we model and we practice. We model and we practice. We practice and we model. So whether we're modeling ourselves after consciousness raising, whether it's Buddhist consciousness raising or Christian heart-centered consciousness raising, or Middle Eastern heart-centered consciousness raising, or Hindi consciousness raising, the goal is always the bond of the man and woman as an unbreakable whole. And the man and the woman as an unbreakable whole leads to the best unfoldment of the child, because that child will feel that he or she is in a world where mommy and daddy love each other, and therefore he or she can bond with somebody who will love each other, that they will love each other. And I believe that the benefits, I believe that one of the best things that my children have reflected back to me is their ability to bond with one other individual and be committed. So the boys, in their early teens, of course, were doing, having sex quite a bit, but as soon as they found somebody who was wholesome or completing them, or that they could really love, I found all of them gravitating toward that. Okay, so I've hit the 15-minute mark, and I kind of think that that's saturation for most of us. Let's just think about that. I want you to think about courage. I want you to think about the hero, actually the hero within, and the hero in relationship to character, consciousness, champion, grace, and character, all reflected in the fearless protector silverback, who's deeply heart-centered and feeling and compassionate in his unwavering sense of responsibility for his family and his tribe. Okay? Namaste.